Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. That address is in the description below. It's your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are talking about a glorious watch, first launched in 1996. It was the original Master 1000 hour certified Master Perpetual, and indeed this in stainless steel is the 37mm black dial Master Perpetual calendar. It is a JLC base movement with the IWC mechanically programmed Kurt Klaus Perpetual calendar system. It's the best of both worlds. Now at 37mm, the watch is quite slim. You can see it's only 9.3mm thick, and it measures a super compact 43.5mm lug to lug with 19mm between the horns of the lugs. So that's the strap size it takes. Throw it on my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, and my goodness, is this gorgeous. It's also an intense and punchy look. There's a lot of power in that contrast of black dial and white metal case. And because it is so compact, it'll fit under a sleeve easily. It'll fit on a smaller wrist. I can recommend it for a wrist as small as 13 centimeters in circumference, making it a beefy unisex option for a man or a woman who demands haute horlogerie at an accessible price. Now the timepiece, of course, is going to be more robust than a standard high complication because most of those are precious metal and this is steel. The timepiece features a matching steel full deployant clasp, and as you can see, it's double finished, media blasted inside and polished otherwise. JLC in recent years has stopped equipping many of its watches, even complications, with folding clasps, so I'm happy to see that they were cutting no corners back in the early 2000s when this model was made. The strap is a JLC factory strap in outstanding condition, black alligator leather, large rectangular scale on the top, a little bit of bolstering to add some volume. You can see it's a sheer-sided strap that shows you the layers of construction with a monotone black stitch, and of course there is a calfskin on the underside. If you're wondering who makes these in France, Camille Fournet is the OEM supplier to Jaeger-LeCoultre, and they made the strap in Paris. The case is simple and flat. The lug profiles feature a little bit of a rounding off at the edge of the lug. This is a small, almost intangible bevel that came with this case from the factory. It helps to reduce the apparent severity and increase the apparent taper of these lugs, which are already quite thin and graceful. They're integrated into the case band, and the case band, as you can see, is relatively thin, with the bezel set back somewhat to create the impression of an even thinner watch. Because the case back is set in so far from the side of the case, the watch winds up looking not just thin, but ultra thin on the wrist. The bezel itself is relatively shallow and conical, and then the dial is an intense black, as you can see, with applique polished and faceted dart-style indices for the hours, and then outboard of each of those, you can see there's a small dot of luminova, and while I can't promise you'll see it on the camera, I can tell you that there is a small red border alongside each of these little lume indices, which is a delicious detail and a splash of color at close range. Now the hands at center are Dauphine style, and they're half frosted, so that makes for better contrast against the black dial base. You can see alpha hands are used for the sub-registers. You have a moon phase accurate to 122 years. And then you have your date, you have your day, you have your month, you have your year, and you have your decade. So you can see you've got your day, your month, your year, and your decade. And yes, the system will keep track as you turn from the 20th to the 21st to the 22nd and ultimately into the 2030s, 40s, and beyond. Now the nice thing about this watch is it uses IWC's Kurt Klaus invented perpetual calendar system. So you just toggle the trigger over here at 8 o'clock, and everything steps forward. The date moves, the day moves, the month moves, the moon phase moves, and the year moves. So all you do is punch in the correct date, and everything else moves in sync. You don't need to go online and look up anything, including the moon phase. Now you can see there's a little bit of skeletonization in the hands at center, and that's the better to not block the danger zone indicator. You can see that there's that little window just above the hands, and that is there to remind you that there are certain hours of the day, and you enter them at about 8 o'clock, but there are hours of the day when you do not want to use the pusher adjuster to manually change over the calendar. And as soon as you see that little red section enter in that window, that means you're in the danger zone, and you want to wait to make any calendar changes until the danger zone recedes. You'll also note that the watch features center seconds as well as stop seconds or hacking. And that's because the thin and fine high horology JLC 889 base drives this watch. Surprisingly, all of this is 50 meters water resistant, which is solidly more than the dress watch standard of 30 meters, so it's impressive on that count alone. Now, the watch goes through the Master 1000 Hours control, introduced first on the Master Grand Tai in 1992. It eventually spanned the entire range, and this was the first Master 1000 Hours certified perpetual calendar wristwatch from JLC. The 1000 Hours control includes 6-position testing, water resistance, shock resistance, winding efficiency, and power reserve. It's a fully cased-up watch test, not the bare movement test of the COSC, and remember, the COSC is only 2 weeks of testing, so this goes above and beyond. You can also see it's a bidirectional winder. It has a lovely little jeweled rocker, and you can sort of see that right under my finger. That jeweled rocker ensures that regardless of which direction the rotor turns, the barrel only winds in one direction. And you have a 22-karat gold mass attached to the rotor, not 21, not 18-karat, and God help us, not tungsten like many modern JLCs use. The whole thing pivots on 50 joules, and like I said, it's adjusted in 6 positions, which is one more than high horology standard and actually one more than the chronometer standard. All of this beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour, which is a modern day high beat rate, and technically it is the 889/440/2. That's what they call this movement, which is the 889 coupled to the Kurt Klaus modular perpetual calendar system. As you can see, it's nicely decorated with real fired blued screws, a few polished details, and handsome circular Côte de Genève with a minimal beveling, mechanically but handsomely applied to the edge of the bridges and engine turning on the base plate. All of this with a 38 to 40 hour bidirectional automatic winding power reserve. Reach out to Tim Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And I'm back with the JLC Master Perpetual by night.